Congresswoman, what in the world can we do all these months later since we started seeing children being separated from their parents at the border, ripped out of their mothers and fathers' arms? Here we are hearing just deplorable situations for infants, children, and teens. What do we do? What can Congress do?
This, first of all, is a humanitarian crisis of enormous proportions, Joe. This is a policy that was the results of a policy that was established by the Trump administration in terms of family separation, and this is horrendous. It's really inhumane what is taking place, and so we have got to make sure, first of all, that these children receive the type of medical care, the type of food, and the humane conditions that they deserve. No child deserves to be treated like barbarians. I mean, this is like horror, what's taking place. I went to McAllen, I went to Brownsville last year. I saw what was taking place. And so what we have to do is make sure that these children have the legal assistance, and yes, they deserve that. We have to make sure that they're taken care of and quickly removed into the appropriate facilities or with their sponsors or reunited with their parents. We're going to work and try to pass a supplemental bill next year that provides additional resources for this humanitarian crisis. We've got to do that. But long term, we've got to have comprehensive immigration reform. We've got to make sure that the policy of family separations is stopped. The administration said they halted it, but they really haven't. And what you see taking place in El Paso, Texas, and at other border cities is just un-American. It's wrong, and the people of our country should stand up and say, this is another stain on our country that we're not going to accept. We're going to take care of these children, and we're going to get them into decent facilities, and we're not going to let them be treated like they're not human beings. And it's just horrible what is taking place. We can't let this happen in the wealthiest and most powerful country in the world.
No, it is just absolutely deplorable. Congresswoman, I'm curious what your comments are, what your reaction is to Joe Biden over the past couple of days. Been talking about being able to work with segregationists who actually inspired him to run for the Senate to reverse their policies. And yet he said some things, some insensitive things. What's your take on Joe Biden's argument that we have to work even with people whose views we find offensive?
Well, I don't think that's the point. I think that the comments were really tone deaf. You don't talk about being treated like a son and not a boy, and I think that that's going to not be taken as very offensive. But I think that, and I listened to Senator Booker, he and the Vice President Biden, they talk, but I tell you one thing, we've got to understand that we have to move forward, and that systemic racism is alive and well in America, and that we cannot really embrace these behaviors of the past and look at how we take on people who are racist and who are xenophobic and who have these biases based on real, insensitive and biases, sometimes unconscious, sometimes not. But we have to really come to grips with that in this country and begin to talk about it. And I think that Senator Corey and the Vice President had the conversation. But let me tell you, saying something to the effect that I was treated like a son and not a boy is quite offensive.
Yeah, do you think, would you consider Vice President Biden to be throughout his career a champion of civil rights?
When you look at his record and when you look at the record of other members of the House and the Senate, you can see that he has supported and led on many civil rights issues. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is being tone deaf to what is offensive and what comes out in terms of attitudes and in terms of dialogue and in terms of making statements that really are very offensive. I don't think that should be connected to any record on civil rights. I mean, look, we're talking now about looking at and studying and establishing a commission on reparations, H.R. 40, to look at how we repair the damage. This is the 400th year of the first ships brought to American shores when slavery started. These were crimes against humanity. humanity. We still see these huge gaps in education and housing. Look at the wealth gap in the black community. When you look at what's taking place in terms of mass incarceration, when you look at all the damage that still has not been rectified from the institution of slavery, we have to move forward and really pass H.R. 4. We can establish this commission so that we can begin some truth telling, so that we can move ahead in this country and ensure liberty and justice for all, and that includes the fact that black lives do matter.